Alright guys, the last time we spoke to our next guest, we didn't know exactly what the future was going to hold for him, but now he is fighting for the welterweight title on arguably one of the biggest cards of all time. Now he joins us before his huge fight at Madison Square Garden at UFC 205. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, welcome back to Submission Radio. How's it going, man?
Doing great, man. You know, I'm just super excited about this fight coming up November 12th, man, and glad to be on the show with you, my friend.
Well, Stephen, we really appreciate the time, especially with you just flying back from New York and the big fight on the radar. Let's jump to that press conference, that UFC 205 press conference. The news came out a little while ago this week, but being at the actual presser on stage at Madison Square Garden, what did that feel like?
Man, it was super intense, you know, walking out there, having the crowd, the New York crowd kind of treating you as one of their own, chanting Wonder Boy, man. It was no words can really describe the way I feel, man. I was smiling from ear to ear. It was pretty intense too. A little bit later on, you got, Conor McGregor sitting to the right of me. He's going at it with Eddie Alvarez, and it was just pretty cool to watch that as well.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You obviously went in the UFC for UFC 100, and you missed out on UFC 200. This card is on that level, if not, better. Many people are regarding it as the biggest card of the year. It's going to be a history-making moment, and obviously it's in Madison Square Garden, which makes it a huge deal. Did you ever sort of dream about being on a card of this caliber and when watching those iconic cards, and most of all, being the co-main event of that night?
Oh, of course, man. I was at actually UFC 200, watching UFC 100 back in the day. This is definitely a dream come true. I always dreamt about fighting on a big card, and I've been shooting for this one for a long time because I knew Chris Weidman, who's a longtime training partner and my part of the family now, brother-in-law. Just wanted to be on the same card with him, and this is just like I said, a dream come true. And man, just super excited to be on the show. And yeah, man, this is like you said, I've dreamt about it, and it's happening.
Well, we got to ask you, Stephen, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about being in the co-main event spot under McGregor Alvarez? Are you happy there on the card, or do you sort of wish you were the main event for this big one?
You know what? There was a little a while there where I thought I was the main event, but having Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez just brings it to a whole new level, which I don't mind. All I'm focused on is my fight, and so I don't let the hype kind of get really get to me. A lot of fighters do that; they let the fight, and it kind of worries them a little bit. And I'm just focused on the job at hand, and that's winning that title belt. So yeah, man, it doesn't affect me. I don't think one bit.
Just on the arena, because that's something special in on itself. Obviously, Madison Square Garden, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. Boxing, ice hockey, NBA, WrestleMania, how could we forget that? The list goes on. What's sort of your most memorable MSG moment that stands out in your mind, if you have one?
Man, I think one of the main things was when Muhammad Ali, I believe, fought in the arena. That's one of the all-time greatest boxers of all time, performing there, and along with a whole list of people, legendary people have walked through there, and just being in there the other day, actually I got to walk through, saw some of the the hockey and the basketball team locker room was just amazing, and to walk through the halls, just knowing that legendary people have walked through these halls before. So this is huge for me, I think my dad is more excited than I am, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, we don't blame him. This is going to be huge for just everybody involved. Now, during the UFC 205 presser, the NYC crowd began to set the tone for the fight when they booed Tyron Woodley every time he spoke. There was even a small Wonderboy chant that you mentioned at the start of this interview at one point during the presser. What did you think of the crowd there, and were you surprised that Tyron got that reaction?
I've been training with Chris Weidman for a while, so like I said, New York is a home away from home, and I believe the fans kind of know that and they feel that, and a lot of the fans that were there were behind me all the way with trying to get this title shot, through the whole process of Tyron saying he wasn't going to fight me, he wanted a money fight. It really was the fans that kind of made this happen. They got out there on social media and really worked it up. So I feel that maybe that's one of the reasons why the fans were kind of behind me. Also, being a relative and a longtime training partner with Chris Weidman, who's basically the face of MMA in New York, I think that had a lot to do with it as well. But man, I thought it was really cool and kind of warmed my heart up a little bit that those guys kind of took me under their wing and be a part of their family there in New York.
I can only imagine. You mentioned before how you were sitting next to McGregor, and you saw some of the funny, hilarious exchanges between him and Alvarez. Any other sort of favorite moments that you remember from that press conference, other than sort of the ones relating to your fight?
It was pretty funny, man, because at the time one of the I think it was one of the media guys had asked Conor McGregor who would he want to fight, or who would give him the hardest time out there. And of course, Jeremy Steven opens up and was like, me, man, the 145-pound. Next thing you know, Conor's like looking around. He's like, who the F is this guy? And I was like, everybody started cracking up, dude. That was probably one of the most hilarious moments. Another one was, I saw it on social media. I didn't actually realize it, but you and Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez started getting into it. We all know what happened last time. Conor McGregor got into it with somebody there. I think it was Nate Diaz. They started throwing cans and bottles, so I made sure that was kind of out of his reach, so I wouldn't get hit if that started happening. So that actually got a little bit of media as well. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Dude, that's hilarious, because I saw that and I thought, is he doing this intentionally, or is this just something that's going on? So in your mind, you thought, okay, I've got this fight happening, UFC 205. I don't want somebody throwing a mother can at the back of my head and cut me open by accident in case something goes down here.
Exactly. I didn't want to give him the ammo to start throwing it. Because I remember last time he just picked up a bottle and just threw it, man. So I know if he started throwing, Eddie's going to start throwing. And then next thing you know, Dana White reaches over and just takes the can away from him. I thought that was hilarious,
Yeah.
It was nuts, man. It was nuts. The crowd was just pumped up for this. So it fired everybody else up. I know it fired Conor McGregor up, as you saw. So, but after that whole event, me and Chris, we were pumped up, we were fired up, we got our gear, and we went and worked out for like 2 or 3 hours.
I can imagine you'd have to sort of get rid of some of that adrenaline from the press conference. Just want to get your thoughts on something, because there's some criticism about McGregor getting to fight Alvarez and keeping his featherweight belt. Huge fight, but obviously such fighters as Khabib and Aldo are pretty upset about the way it came together. You were actually almost in a similar situation with Tyron Woodley trying to fight, GSP or Nick Diaz at one point in Canada, which would have held you up. Just curious, what do you think about the decision and obviously the 145-pound division sort of having to wait for McGregor again?
Well, we really don't know what's going to happen. Dana White's saying it's not going to happen. If he gets the 155 belt, then the 145 belt is going to be, up for grabs. But, obviously he's going to go out there and he's going to, kind of stick it to the man a little bit, which, gets the crowd going some. So we'll see. I don't know if Conor McGregor has that much pull. But, you know what? It's one of those things to where we'll see if it happens. I don't think it's fair for the 145 guys. Because, nothing's happening in that division now. Everybody's waiting, and Conor's kind of holding it up. We got a bunch of guys in that division who are up to fight for that title, and they're just waiting in the wind, So I think that's kind of messed up. But, as Conor McGregor said, hey, I'm going to have one belt on one shoulder. The other belt on the other shoulder is going to take an army to take these belts away from me. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think it's fair for the 145 guys.
Well, we got a few questions about Woodley, but you mentioned belts, and that just reminded me of something, Stephen. I was on Instagram, and I saw a photo of you, I believe, at Chris Weidman's house. You were asleep, and you were hugging a title belt. Now, explain to me, how did you first acquire the title belt? Was it a sneaky ninja-like tactic to get it to the bedroom where you were staying? And then what did it feel like cuddling that belt all night long?
Man, it was hilarious. We got a little intimate with the belt. No, I'm kidding. It was just a funny thing. You know what I mean? The belt was sitting there right next to me, and Chris was trying to find me. You know what I mean? We were getting ready to go train. He said, "Where you at, man? Where you at?" Of course, Chris just moved into his new house, so he walked in my room and I acted like I was asleep with the belt next to me. He ended up popping a picture before I even knew about it. And next thing you know, he posted on dang Instagram. So and obviously that went viral. But yeah, man, it was really cool. But you know what? Here pretty soon, I want to have my own belt to be. I want to have next to my bed at night. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, you'll be cuddling your own belt. We're very excited for you. Hopefully that all goes your way. We've spoken to you in the past, Stephen, about some of the frustrations that you had sort of towards Woodley leading into this fight. But recently, your dad and him actually got into it via social media. Your dad basically reacted to Tyron saying the fight between you and him was confirmed weeks ago, explaining that you and him only learned about it from a parent watching Fox Sports. What did you think when you saw that going on?
You know what? I just started cracking up. I was just laughing because, my dad, he's a proud dad. But,
Mm-hmm.
for him to say that I'm fake humble because of that reason, we had no idea we were fighting. And if you saw the tweet, my dad actually went back 6 weeks ago, and Tyron was saying there was no fight. He didn't sign an agreement. So that was a lie right there. He was also saying the first time he was asked to take the fight, he took it. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. I asked him the very first night on Fox 4 right after his fight, and he told me no. So that's a lie right there. So my dad just kind of went on and just kind of let the fans and let Tyron know that we didn't know. The first time we found out we were fighting was when he announced it on Fox Sports 1. And, of course, while they're going back and forth, I'm out here training. I'm not worried about anything that is said on social media. I'm focused. I'm working hard. And that's all I'm worried about. Whatever is going on in the media right now, whatever people are saying, that can wait. Right now, it's just me and Tyron.
So I'm just wondering, as far as obviously him announcing it on Fox Sports 1, how did you actually find out? Were you watching Fox Sports 1 and you saw him announce it? Or was it that you were in training and somebody told you afterwards? Where exactly were you when you found out?
I was actually in the middle of teaching a kids class.
Wow.
And, just sitting there teaching classes, and next thing you know, one of our karate parents jumps up in the air and starts going crazy. I'm like, oh, my goodness, what's going on? She won the lottery or something. And she's like, no, Steven, you got the title shot, man. You got the title shot. I was like, you're lying. See, she ended up showing me and actually the whole class and, the parents there that he had announced it, and everybody started going crazy, man. And that my heart just lit up, that it's official. Like it's happening. Because there for a while, I wasn't really sure where it was going. After Damian Maia ended up winning his fight, there was talk about him, getting the title shot of obviously George St. Pierre and whoever else Tyron was calling out. So once that was announced and that was official, that did it all for me. So that's exactly how I found out.
And what a great place to find out as well. I mean, in a lot of ways, you couldn't really pick a better spot to do it. Quickly on the social media stuff with your dad and Woodley, there was something, while you were laughing, did you see the comment where Woodley said that he loves seeing your pop fight your battles for you and questioned if you were 13 on 34? Did you get to see that response that he gave to your dad? What was your reaction to that one?
That was funny, man. My dad's always got my back. And, I don't know, man. For me, like I said, I don't care what Tyron says. So obviously I'm not going to get on there and fuel the fire. It doesn't bother me one bit. But, Dad thought I was a little bit disrespectful. And I didn't actually find out until I saw it on social media. And my dad's response was, you know what, neither. He's not 12 or 34. While he's over there tweeting my dad, I'm out here training. So my dad said, son, you're slow in every aspect of the game. So I started cracking up.
It was a hilarious back and forth. You mentioned respect. Tyron claimed that he's respected all of his opponents, and he's even looked up to some of them in the past. While he definitely respects you as a fighter, he doesn't respect you as a man, and that's something that sort of fuels him going into this fight. Just wondering, what are your feelings towards Tyron, and has this lead up to the fight changed them in any way?
You know what? Not at all. Not at all. I respect Tyron, and for him to say that he doesn't respect me as a man, I don't know what I've done to him to get him for him not to respect me. I don't know if it's the fact that I really didn't know that. He said that the fight was set like weeks and weeks ago when it wasn't. I think he's just trying to get in my head, and you know what I mean. It is what it is. I don't care. I don't care what he thinks of me. I'm just going to go out there and do my thing.
Well, the funny thing was, at the press conference, it seemed like you guys were very cordial, and he shook your hand, and when you guys did the stare down, it didn't look like there was too much animosity. Just wondering, what was that moment like when you looked in his eyes for the first time? They say you can learn a lot about your opponent in that moment. Did you get anything? And were you surprised that he shook your hand at the press conference after he's been saying all this stuff?
You know what? During the social media things that we had going on last week, I think he kind of came out and realized that I actually didn't know that we were going to be fighting. I found out that night, and he kind of backtracked a little bit. And everything was cool, man. During last week, during the media, we were talking to each other, shaking hands, and like I said, it might have been like a scare tactic or something he was trying to do to get in my head. And it obviously, I let him know real quick it's not going to work. So man, and looking at it in his eyes, I don't know if there was a little disappointment there. that I saw. I figured that he might have thought the fans maybe would have had his back. He was a little surprised that they were booing him, and I could tell that, and I think that's in his head a little bit. But you know what? He's going to be the best Tyron Woodley when he steps out there November 12th, and that's the guy that I want to be prepared for.
Just curious, you said you spoke a bit at that press conference. What was that conversation like? What did you guys talk about? Did you get a chance to sort of clear the air a little bit?
You know what? It wasn't that we were just chatting like, kind of like we're chatting now. It was just, we were talking, everybody was having the kind of the same conversations, talking with each other. And it was not like we had a one-on-one combo. It was kind of everybody talking, being around each other. There was no beef, you know what I mean? There was no hard feelings. And, we were being, both him and myself were being very professional.
Stephen, we really appreciate the time. Just a few more questions and we'll let you go. You spoke about Chris Weidman being on this card, and we're all very excited because he's done so much to get the sport legalized in the state of New York. But everybody's talking about the fact that Woodley's a strong wrestler. Will you be training and sparring with Weidman leading into UFC 205? And talk us through your plan for training, because UFC 205 isn't that far away. Will you be going to New York to train there permanently, or will you be training out of home where you are now?
Actually, I started my camp 2 weeks ago up in New York, training with Chris Weidman for this fight. And obviously, my wrestling has come a long way. Training with him, obviously, my wrestling coach Thomas Lee, my buddy Matt Miller, Olympic wrestler from Canada, has really helped me out with that. So yeah, I'll definitely be back up to New York, making trips up there. So I'm spending my camp here and up there. So kind of going back and forth. I got my buddy Ryan Hall coming in, I think tomorrow. So he'll be here. I know he's got a fight coming up as well. But yeah, man, as much as I can with Chris Weidman, we're going to be, preparing for this fight together. And that's why I think this excites me so much. Having a relative and a close friend fighting on the same card.
Just on that wrestling, a lot of people believe that Woodley would try and get you down from the onset of the fight. Obviously, McDonald wasn't able to do it. Hendricks couldn't really do it. Is Woodley sort of the toughest grappler you've faced, or do you sort of see Rory and Johnny as harder tests?
You don't see, if you look back in his fights, I mean, he doesn't throw a double or go for the takedown very often. Tyron wants to put those hands on you. He wants to try and knock you out. I think once he gets a little frustrated, obviously he's going to try and do that, just like everybody else that I faced. I think pretty much the hardest opponent in the division is Rory McDonald. I mean, Rory pretty much schooled Tyron Woodley. But you know what? I can't take this guy lightly, and that's how I go in looking at this fight. A lot of people are like, oh, man, you're going to crush this dude. And Tyron Woodley, he smoked him. And you know what? I don't think like that. I'm not the type of guy to do that because, I want to prepare for the best guy. And that's Tyron Woodley. That's the guy standing in front of me. I'm preparing myself as if this is going to be the hardest fight I've ever faced. And it possibly could be. I want to be ready for 5-minute rounds.
Obviously, you're not expecting this to be an easy test at all, but is there a specific way that you visualize this fight playing out now that you finally got the shot in the moment to do it? Is there a specific scenario in which you see yourself beating him?
You know what? There's a million different ways that things can go down and ways that I can beat him. The only thing that I visualize is my hand raised at the end of the fight. You can prepare yourself all you want for a fight, but once you get out there, it's all on reaction. You may have a game plan to go out there and do this and do that, just like I did with Rory McDonald. I planned to go out there and really be aggressive and take it to him and try and, hopefully, try and tire him out, maybe finish him in the first round. But as soon as I got out there, things changed. I just felt a little different, and I had to kind of adapt and go with a different game plan. So, you know what, however he is, I'm going to be ready for it. If he's going to wait back or if he's going to be aggressive, if he wants to stand and bang or if he wants to try and grapple me, I'm going to be there to stop him.
I can't wait for this fight. Stephen, we'll let you go in just a moment. Assuming all goes to plan, what do you think that moment will be like when the belt gets put around your waist? Have you sort of pictured that in your mind? Can you visualize that?
I do visualize it, man. Every day, every time I step out there on the mat or in the cage sparring, I visualize it every time, every second, just about. And you know what? The first thing I'm gonna thank, obviously, is my Lord and Savior, but everybody that helped me get me here, which is my coaches, my mom and my dad, the sacrifices they have made, even my sparring partners, the abuse that they have taken, for their, in their bodies and in training for me to get where I am, man, I'm thanking them first and foremost. And that's exactly what I'm going to take my belt. A lot of people take their belts home. I'm taking it to the gym, so everybody can enjoy it, not just myself.
So you'll be sleeping with it during the night, but when it comes time to go to the gym, you'll bring it with you to the gym and then bring it back to the bedroom at night. But quick question before we do let you go. We know you don't want to look past UFC 205, but if you do win and you do become champion, what's the plan afterwards? Because you've been in a situation where you've had to really work for that title shot. You've waited for a really long time, and now you'll be in a position as champion where you can defend it as frequently as you want and, against whoever you think seems fit. So do you see yourself being a champion that fights frequently? And do you think you'd give Damian Maia a shot at that title fight if you become champion?
You know what? There's only one guy that I can think of right now who deserves it, and that is Damian Maia. He's worked really hard. He's on a 6-fight winning streak. So...
Are people whistling at you, Steven?
Yes, they are. They're whistling at me right now.
What's going on? Talk us through this. We're on the scene.
We got some ladies right here yelling at me right now. So,
what are they yelling?
I'll be over there in a second. They're like, "Steven, come over here." So yeah, man. I think they're waiting on me. But yeah, man, Damian Maia is it, buddy. I mean, he's worked really hard. He's a very honorable fighter, and I think he deserves it, man. He's the top of the game.
Well, there you go. The ladies are calling your name, so we don't want to hold you up. Hey, before we let you go, we've spoken about this on the show before, Steven. Did you know that there's going to be a new Power Rangers movie coming out next year? We thought we'd break the news to you if you didn't find out.
Dude, I knew something like this was going to happen. I heard, and so it's official. It's happening, right? I'll be the first one to buy a ticket, dude.
It's happening, dude. So I think when that movie comes out, we'll have to get you on just to do a movie review because I feel like there's a Power Ranger connection between Submission Rain and Stephen Thompson. So I'm glad that you're
down,
excited
baby.
Because we're excited too.
I am so down, man. Let's do it.
There you go, guys. It's official. Steven, we won't hold you up anymore. The ladies are calling, and we want you to go to them. So we'll let you go. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll see you in New York. Guys, don't forget, obviously, to watch Steven take on Tyron Woodley for the welterweight UFC title at UFC 205, November 12th. The time difference will make it November 13th here, and follow him on Twitter and Instagram at WonderboyMMA. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Steven.
No worries, man. Have a good one. Bye-bye.